I'd like to call Destin Fire Control District Board of Fire Commissioners meeting to order. We're at 848 Airport Road here in Destin. The day is April 13th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. This meeting is open to the public. First off, we'd like to do an employee recognition. Chief?
Yes, sir. As we're adding on new employees, some employees are finishing up their rescue specialist courses. We'd like to recognize one of those that finished it up outside of the course of classes that we have been running here at the department. Engineer Clark was 2 classes short of his rescue specialist to finish that curriculum out. He went and researched and found the classes that he needed and went and achieved those. So I'm proud of him for doing that. He could have waited until the next time that we held those classes here at the department. But it says a lot about his character that he went out and found those classes, wanted to contribute, be on part of our specialist team. So he went and found those classes, went and attended those, and he's finished up his rescue specialist. So with that said, I'd like to award him tonight his team helmet and congratulate him for putting forth the effort and concluding his rescue specialist series and becoming certified. So
Awesome.
if I take your in the center. Oh yeah, oh no, everybody gets to see you. Oh, sir.
Thank y'all for putting me through those classes.
Thanks for taking the initiative to go out.
Say that.
Yeah.
We weren't supposed to say that. Here you go, sir. No, right here. Someone's
This
gonna
way,
take
the
a picture.
camera, yeah.
If I can get Commissioner
Yeah,
Moore to center up
Oh.
just a little. There we
Center
go.
up.
That's good. That's great.
I'm smiling under my mask.
Are you?
Mhm.
I can see
Can't
it.
help it.
Okay.
I think
Very
it's his
good, guys.
cheekbones
Very
get
good.
away. Cheekbones get away. Good job, Rick.
Good job.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the initiative.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
All right.
Congrats,
Good to
buddy.
see you.
It's not as good as your photos.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm a little hurt you didn't want the CPA in the photo, but
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Go take some pictures.
Yes.
Those are such nice helmets.
They are sweet.
That's good.
Yeah, you saw those in our couple of Facebook posts where we sent a few guys to South Carolina
Mhm.
to participate in that advanced education course. And you can see our folks as compared to the other folks. And because, you can identify them because of those elements, which I think is pretty cool.
That was the purpose.
And that's exactly right.
Yeah.
We can
Ready
identify
for
ourselves.
Excellent. Any other?
No, sir, that's it.
Okay.
Just Mr. Clark.
All right. At this time, I'd like to open the floor up for public comments. Seeing none, the floor is closed to public comments. We're going to move into the presentation of September 30th, 2020 audit report by Carr, Riggs, and Ingram. And we have Mr. Steve Riggs here to present.
thank y'all very much. Appreciate it. In front of you have the financials, and every year they get more and more complicated. It's around 60 pages for Destin Fire Control. And I will tell you, the way I like to present is I kind of put myself in your shoes and what would I want to know, if I was a board member. So I kind of go over the highlights, and then once I get done with that, if you have any questions on that or a different area, I'm willing to go into greater detail on some of the other areas. So anyways, starting out on page 1 and 2 is our auditor's report, also known as our opinion. And I'm glad to let you know that it's a clean opinion. So there's no big issues. There's a major issue, we'd have it right there pointing to where in the financial statements that issue would lie. Okay, beginning on page 3, we start out with management's discussion and analysis, and that's just a summary of the financial activity. So I'm going to kind of go over the management's discussion and analysis as opposed to the face of the financials, like the balance sheet and P&L, because this just kind of summarizes and gives you a good idea. Page 4 is our condensed statement of net position. And again, it's more commonly referred to as a balance sheet. And if we look on there, assets increased by about $900,000. And that was primarily due to, we had excess revenue over expenditures in the current year, so that was a residual that came over and got put in your checking account. Liabilities, they decreased by about $2 million. And this is due to pay down on the pension liability in addition to the other actuarial changes to the pension liability based on participants and rate of return and everything else. So those are the two big things that happened on the balance sheet that I feel are important. The next page, on page 5, is our statement of activities, which is sort of like our profit and loss, right? And the top two sections, we have program revenues and general revenues. Our general revenues, our ad valorem taxes went up a little bit. And then the other big item there was the miscellaneous, the $260,000 increase over last year. And that relates to the fireboat insurance payout. So that's kind of a one-off item. If we look at expenses, everything was pretty much in line except for our personnel services went down. And again, this is really driven by the pension expense that gets rolled up into that. So with that, that's kind of the big things I see our balance sheet and P&L. And for the year, your net position or your equity, net worth, whatever you want to call it, increased by about $2.2 million, which is good. Page 7 just gives a summary of our capital assets and our long-term liabilities. And in capital assets, we had some additions. We got rid of some stuff, and then normal depreciation, so that there's nothing abnormal there. And long-term liabilities, you'll see our net pension liability again went down by about $2.2 million. So that was good to see that number go down. Alrighty, let's see. Starting on page 10 through 18, and again, this is on the face of the financial statements. We went over the summarized version of this. And again, governmental financials, we have 3 different sets of financials here. We have our government-wide, which begins on page 10. Our general fund is on 12. And our pension fund begins on 17. But again, everything I kind of went over it's consistent with this. It was just summarized looking at that in relation to the prior year. Beginning on page 19, we have the notes of the financial statements. Again, we just go into greater detail about the significant audit areas or financial statement audit areas within your assets and liabilities. I do want to draw your attention to, let's see here, page 36. So we have this really long note 5 on retirement plans. So we have all the details about everything. But I think the important thing for the board is you look at about midway through, it says sensitivity to the net pension liability to changes in the discount rate. So you can see our current discount rate, we have our net pension liability at about $4.8 million. I just like to point out what happens if it changes 1% up or 1% down. So there is volatility because again, we're talking about long-term liabilities, you can't predict it. So you deal with your actuary and we try to plan ahead, but that just kind of gives you an idea. You're going to see swings from year to year, depending on what the market's doing. But again, I just like to point that out because it does have the number jump up or down, pretty significantly. If you are curious about the historical percentages that you have earned over time, you can look on page 51. And again, you're going to see in there, we had some good years, we had some down years, but again, we're all kind of balancing out, and y'all are in accordance with your investment policy and everything, investing. So, but that just gives some historical reference on that. I'm going to go quickly over the budget to actual, which is on page 46 and 47. You had a favorable variance compared to your budget in revenues and expenses. So you can see our revenues, we were about $300,000 over budget. And if you look at page 47, the current expenditures were, you were under budget by about 350. And then the capital outlay, you were under budget by about 1.6. And what we see with the fire district is sometimes you budget and the purchases for some of those things may not end up in that particular year. They usually happen the next year. So that's not unusual, but I just want to point out that y'all did a good job on your general revenues and expenses, your operating revenues and expenses of monitoring that and staying within budget. All right. So again, you did a great job on that. On page 48 and 49, again, this just gives a good summary or the changes in your net pension liability from year to year. So if you ever want to compare current year to what's been happening over the past several years, you can go there and kind of see exactly what's been happening. All right.
Looks good.
Yeah. If you look at page 49 too, this is a useful schedule because it summarizes what your liability per the actuary is compared to what you're funding. And if you look at, it's the third line, 9/30/2020 has a negative 542,000. That means that's an excess. That means y'all contributed more than what the actuary came for. So the last 5 years, we're doing a good job of contributing a little bit more than the actuary says, which I think is good for a fire district or any government to kind of try to stay ahead of it and not let it get out of control, right?
Right.
So I think you've done a great job on that.
Thank
you. Pages, okay, this is not really important, so I mean, you can turn if you want, but page 53, we start with our report on internal control. Again, I'm glad to announce that we didn't have any deficiencies that we had to point out. If we did, we'd have it there. Page 55 is the management letter. It's also called the Auditor General's letter because they dictate the format of it, and they are concerned about various things. In addition to financial, also compliance. If we had any issues, we would detail it here, but again, this is clean. And the last one, 57, is our report relating to your compliance with the with the investment policies. And again, y'all are in compliance, so if we had anything, we point it out there. So with that, that's my quick and dirty of Destin Fire. And again, overall, I think the board should feel pretty good. There were just no major issues. It's just, there's just a lot going on, especially with GASB, Governmental Accounting Standards Board. They keep giving us new pronouncements, new accounting rules, and that's why the little Destin Fire District's up to 60 pages. So they're thinking obviously of auditing Miami-Dade County. I don't know.
Yeah.
With that, I'll open up to any questions, comments, anything I can assist with.
Well, I'd like to just say I'm proud of the district and the board to be in this position that we're in. But I think a lot of it goes to Catherine for
100%.
making everything work, and we appreciate her.
Thank you.
She's worth her weight in gold. And you need a strong person in house. And we have a lot of organizations that don't have that.
And that's where we're glad to have that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because not only does she get it in the right places, she's watching your budget action and everything else, keeping the train running. So, yep.
And she keeps us out of trouble, which I like. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Chief, too.
We do
Everybody
need
involved.
approval for the audit, please.
Yeah.
That's all. Entertain a motion.
So maybe
I got a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, take a vote. All in favor?
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
No, I have a question for you, if it's okay.
Okay,
I mean, it's
yeah,
off
please.
topic, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Just to see what, because we've asked Chad the question when this legislation came forward, and I remember briefing the board on it. It's still moving forward now. It's in this third committee. We anticipate it's going to move forward and be voted on by one of either the House or the Senate. But it's House Bill 1103. You familiar with House Bill 1103? Which is the special district performance audit that's being pushed through right now. I know based upon the lobbyists that FASD has, some of the feedback they're giving us is that there has been some discussions over who can perform this audit around the state, and initially they'd only come up with like 5 auditing firms that could do it throughout the state. And fire districts, if the legislation stays as it is, will be the first out of the chute of all the special districts. They'll have to perform this audit starting October 1st of this year. So as special districts, we're trying to push that off at least a year to give us an opportunity to budget for it, one, and prepare for a performance audit. Not really knowing what that's going to incorporate truly yet. So with them trying to work out the details of who's going to be able to perform it, I didn't know if Carr, Riggs and Ingram, I think they're trying to modify this legislation so that they can open it up more to allow more auditing firms to be able to perform it. I think there's been some amendments made to the bill to try to open it up because they had kind of, I would say, rattled it into just a few. And I didn't know if Carr, Riggs and Ingram were initially part of the group of 5 that could have done that they were talking about. And when they open it up, I'm sure you all are kind of keeping tabs on it, I would think.
We are, and I need to follow up with our lobbying firm that helps us out with that stuff. So we have a firm in Tallahassee that kind of gives us updates. So I'll give them a call and see what, because a lot of times they can help tell me what it's going to end up looking like. So once it gets to reconciliation and everything else, this is what we think it's going to look like.
Right.
And then I can report back to you exactly, hey, look, here's what it goes. But those 5 firms, originally I think it was done through the state term contract. And we are one of the, I think it's 5 or 6, I can't remember, that are on the state term contract. So we pre-negotiate with the state of Florida on rates. And then so government agencies can engage us directly without going out to bid and getting 17 bids.
Right.
So since all that's pre-negotiated, it's we kind of do that. But yeah, it's something something we're looking out for, and I'll follow up with them on the effective date they think it will go into effect, and then what the bill would ultimately end up like. I think what they're going to do is they're going to see, sometimes these things are great in theory, but then you look at trying to implement them, and it makes it incredibly difficult on organizations like yourself.
Right.
And again, if you're thinking about Miami-Dade, well, that's a different animal. But the rest of the fire districts are relatively small, and it would place a burden.
An undue burden.
Correct.
Well, they were talking a huge amount of money to do the.
Very well could be based upon the size of the organization, because it's the amount of work that's going to have to be done by auditors and then how much that's going to cost. When we initially asked Steve's firm about the audit and how much it might cost so that we could submit our numbers, it was difficult for them to even give us anything because there wasn't enough there in the legislation for them to truly even get a grasp on what it was that they were going to have to perform, where they were going to have to look, and the amount of work it's going to have to take. So they weren't able to give us a number initially.
Each district could be different, I'm sure,
Based
based off
based
their
on
revenue.
size and stuff, yeah.
Now, I'll tell you, performance audit, that is not a term that has a definition to it.
Right.
It's subjective. It can mean 1,000 different things. So it's a legislature, what they put in the bill will ultimately drive the procedures that we have to do, and then that will drive the cost. So it's without being definitive on you're going to have to do X, Y, and Z.
It's hard to put a cost to it because you don't know what it's truly going to entail.
Yeah.
Is
So
it more like a forensic audit where everything's?
no, it's not even about your finances. It's performance. It's based upon what we were created to do and how well are we doing it.
That's right.
And then they develop the criteria that they want to be evaluated. So as us, we were created to be a fire district. Well, how well are you doing it? And then, okay, so what's your norm? What are we going to be graded against? So what is the performance of the expectation? So whether are we performing up to expectation or below expectation, and where's your performance measures? So what measure are you using to evaluate us? There's a lot to this that I don't think they truly vetted out.
It's not subjective too.
Very subjective. So
Who's making the standard?
I don't know if they're going to want to, for us being a fire district, where they're going to want to fall back for us to NFPA and say, are we performing up to, requirements within the National Fire Protection Association? And if that's the case, then we get that with ISO. So I mean, ISO comes in not every year, but they'll come in, well, it's been 10, but, they'll come in occasionally and check us. And basically, that's how we got our ISO classification. So I don't know really what they're shooting for. When, as part of the FASD, when we looked at it and asked our lobbyists to look at it, as we expressed to those committees, we don't really understand the need for this. Why is it? Did somebody do something somewhere around the state, which normally is what, promulgate something like this?
Yeah.
Did somebody do something? No? Well, why? And what's the need? I mean, our citizens guide us. So they get to elect the boards, and then if the boards aren't performing and the district's not performing, they let somebody to clean house or whatever they need to do. Our citizens still control us. And that comes back to that home rule and all that, the still issues. So I just wanted to see if there was anything that Steve might have been aware of and his firm, and whether they might have been part of the initial 5. And I think some of the amendment that might be, the amendment that was proposed or might be in there is that if we have a relationship, they got to define it, a relationship with a firm, that firm can't do it, it's got to be somebody else. So I'm not sure, we're going to have to vet a lot of stuff out that's kind of, that they're working through right now.
Yeah, a lot of that is driven off of stuff that's happened. They may have found a special district, may not even been a fire district, could have been a charter school or community development district or
That's
whatever. That maybe the chair hired their spouse or something to do the audit, or, and what we've seen throughout the state is you will get some local governments or government-related type entities that honestly, they go get someone who's not qualified to do it. Another firm, they can do it cheaper, whatever. And then, I mean, if you don't do this all the time, it's hard to jump into it and you miss stuff.
Right.
And then somebody commits fraud, and then that elected official in that county goes to Tallahassee and does something. So,
So I'll just keep the board posted, and I'll check with Steve back later and see what they've got, what their feedback is from their lobbyists, see how this moves forward.
Yeah.
But thank you, Steve, appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Steve, for coming in. Great
Yeah.
report. Appreciate it.
if y'all ever need me, other than once a year, I'd be happy to come. But y'all are well taken care of.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it very much.
Go. I get to go. Turn the bill. That's where I spend every night.
Good deal.
A number of days. But I think just say though,
Thank
that
you.
I put this in against the special
Me
district
too.
program. With our specialty rescue and our big safety program and the requirements we have for our firefighters. I put us up against anybody and so this really doesn't concern me, the audit, other than the cost of it.
Yeah, that's right too.
I'm not worried about the performance audit. I feel comfortable that this district right here will.
We got the proper staff.
I think
We got the
we're
right
trying, as this group knows, but, and I think that's the position that we took as, our Florida Association of Special Districts, position that we took with this legislation as it came through is that we don't understand why they're doing it. And we've asked them, is there something there? And then but we've also made it very clear to them that do understand, the legislators, we're not afraid of a performance audit. We're all doing our jobs. We're not afraid of it. We just don't understand the need. So,
And the cost. I mean,
Right.
why waste the money?
an unfunded mandate.
There might be some issues down south or somewhere with the cities and counties wanting to take over a special district or something like that. That could be a keynote in it.
Like I always say, address the issue, don't blanket everybody.
I don't think
You
the
know?
city of Destin or the Okaloosa County wants to get in that
Right.
tip with us right now.
I do think it's spurned from somewhere else. This legislation, as I told the board before, is a speaker priority. So it's coming from the Speaker Sproles. So I'm not sure where, that has its roots, where it's rooted. I don't know.
We'll have to deal with it when it comes down the pipe. But I did want to make a mention that we do have 2 excused absent commissioners, Wilson and Buckingham. So we do have a quorum, so that's why public, you only see 3 commissioners sitting up here at the table. So, moving into chief reports, beach safety update.
Yes, sir. Joe's not able to be here tonight. He had the city asked for a district representative to attend their safety committee meeting, and talk about beach safety. So I felt Joe was the appropriate person to do that, so I excused him this meeting to go to that one. You do have his report in front of you, his comments on the agenda. First day was Saturday, March 6th. He and Commissioner Wilson presented Alan Laird of AJ's with a plaque that goes along with the board that they helped to donate. And then, as he says there, it has been, as probably most of the commissioners are aware, it's been extremely busy starting the season with the storms coming through. We've been running, and I would say, an unprecedented number of red flags for this early in the year. But even with all that said, there have been 0 drownings so far in Destin. Unfortunately, we can't say that for surrounding next to us, but we could be the next one in the barrel if people aren't, and they aren't always listening. So we're making a significant numbers of rescues, as you can see in Joe's report. So you have it in front of you. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer it. If not, we'll make sure that I make note and get the answers to you.
Okay, moving to the training report.
Yes, sir. You'll see our folks did 38 hours of training. Some of it was in EMS, just reviewing some of the procedures. Hazmat was hands-on. We brought the company in to run our people through the Hazmat Tech series, which is part of what we asked them to do. And then they did the timber drill. They did a long driveway drill, and some other online stuff. Some of the special training they did was pre-fire plans, and they're working on the hydrant skills. So 38 hours, which is 18 hours above the requirement. I think we're setting our bar high so that the next time that ISO comes in, if there's any training that they kick out, we've got 18 hours worth in this month that they have to kick out to get us down to the 20.
Yeah.
So we're making sure that we're going to hopefully exceed it, because we know some hours will be kicked out when they come in early.
Good job. Any questions? All right, inspection report.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, you have my report in front of you. It has been a little bit slow right now. We do have the Charles, they're trying to get their first building to go online and stuff, so it's building 3, it's the very back building back there and stuff, and also they still got some issues they gotta work out, but they're in the process of that now, so. Other than that, we still got a couple of hotels and stuff that are coming up. One on Commons Drive there, looks like they got some steel going up on it now. The one behind Longhorns.
Oh, okay, that's what I was trying to figure out where that one was.
And then the Homewood Suites out there on 98 or on Coast Parkway and stuff should be finalized in the near future. So
How many units?
I don't know for sure. Not right off the top of my head.
Any questions? All right, thanks, Matt. All right, overtime report, chief.
Yes, I'll say the March activity wasn't bad. We only had a total of 6, almost 7 hours. That's not bad. I will say that you can anticipate the April report and they will have some on it based upon the COVID outbreak we had here at the department with one group of people. So, but for right now, this looks good going into April.
Thank you, chief.
Yes, sir.
All right, review the minutes, regular meeting, March 9th, 2021, special meeting on March 17th, 2021, and special meeting on March 31st, 2021. So I'll entertain a motion to approve all 3.
Approve all 3.
Second. Got a motion to approve all 3. A second. Any discussion, deletions? Seeing none, take a vote. All in favor? Unanimous? Approved. All right, Catherine, financial report, March 31st, 2021.
I'd like to say before we start that I'm very pleased that, and surprised, really, that, and not surprised, but that Ms. Catherine has this financial report available, with the fact that she was out as long as she was, out of the office this past month. So, I'm very proud of her for being able to produce it. I know it took a lot of effort to try to get to this point, being that she wasn't in the office as much as she normally is to be able to get this done. So, Ms. Catherine.
Okay, the report before you is for March 31st, 2021. That is our 6th month through our fiscal year. So as you look through revenues and expenses, we're looking for right at that 50% mark. Our cash position is strong. We are almost fully collected with our ad valorem taxes, with only approximately $300,000 remaining for this fiscal year. Our accounts receivable show for the month of March high at $275,000. However, as of today, we've brought in $200,000. So our accounts receivable are in line and all collectible at this time. Liabilities, equity have been adjusted. This is one of the cleanest reports I've ever presented because there's very little activity this month. We had no capital expenditures. We had no capital equipment. We had no large repair and maintenance. We really just had our operations, our normal overhead and personnel services. If you do go through the revenue over expenditures, you will see that there are some items that we've talked about over the last few months that will need budget adjustments. We will propose those at the next meeting. I was not able to have that for this evening's meeting. At this point, we're not talking about anything large. We're going to be adjusting for training that we've had here, and then making appropriate adjustments for the new station on Calhoun. If there's, and there's one item, it's not on this financial report, but I do want to report that the district has once again received the training grant of $5,000 from our workers' comp carrier. So we have received payment that will be reflected on our next report. But I'm happy to say that the training is qualifying for safety for our district, and we're recognized for that again. If there's any specific questions, I'll be happy to address those.
Make a motion to approve financial March 31st, 2021.
Second.
I got a motion to approve in a second. Any further discussion? Chief, anything? Okay. All right, we'll take a vote. All in favor? Unanimous? All right, let's move into old business, West End District Station update. Chief?
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, Commissioner Buckingham's not here to assist, but I'll do the best I can. You have 3 different drawings in front of you. The drawing of the Bay House is what we have received so far from DAG. They're working on the drawings for the Bay House and for the new construct. Those drawings were supposed to be for our ability to put it out for an RFP so contractors would know what they're bidding on. They can look at the drawings and see the differences in the current versus what we would like for it to be, measurements and those kind of things, as well as for the new construct. So 40 by 60 and interior layout and that kind of thing. So, but this is his, I've assumed the first run. I would have hoped for a little better than what we have here because there's no drawing, measurements or anything on this drawing.
Well, I guess it's just so that we can look at it and say, yeah, that's kind of looks good.
In
and then
general,
they can-
that's where we're at.
in general.
There's some adjustments in this that there's things here that don't exist that need to exist. So with what you see, are 5 bunks and a locker room on the far right, which is what we kind of described to him. And I'd drawn something like this, hand drawn, something like this. And then the bathrooms changed over to where they're full baths. The one room now is turned into a kitchen with the 2 kind of basic bars, 3 refrigerators there. Then you can move off into the cleaning room, laundry room, washer and dryer. You see a small pantry, so we closed off the hallway, turned that into a full pantry. And then what needs to be adjusted is along that wall to the opening that's there needed to be an additional closet. Because as you look through this, there is no place for storage,
Yeah.
right? So we need some interior storage of some kind.
Is that pantry? Is that what's needed?
Well, the pantry is there in the hallway. You can see that L shape that's inside that used to be a hallway. It's now closed off, coming out of the
Oh, I see
laundry.
it, I see it.
Right there off the laundry. So that's where the pantry was going to be, or proposed. But then there was a longer wall there that goes to an opening between the lanai, I call it, or the Florida room or whatever, but it's undercover and it's fully enclosed and heated and AC. And what we would call the dining room, which is right there near the day room. So there's a larger opening there, and it's not really showing real well on this drawing, but that wall extends out probably a good 8 feet. And then what we would do is take that 8 feet, extend it out the width of the hallway and close it in and put a door in it. We create that as storage as well as a server electronics room. So that way, whatever else needs to be in there, for sure, we need to have a server and access to it and all that. And there's other things that we're going to need, but I don't expect the radio antenna, the toning capabilities and all that kind of the stuff that it takes to make that function to be, it might be in that closet or it might be out in the open in that one area. But anyway, there's a closet that's missing because there's no storage or anything that's there. So that's kind of missing from this. And then we didn't get anything on the other yet as far as the new construct. And there's nothing for them to do at the cottage. That's something that we're going to try to do in-house. So I just wanted you to kind of see he's got that going. If the board wasn't happy with it, wanted me to go in a different direction, wanted to provide me with that guidance to go out and engage someone else and get it done differently, then I could, or we'll move forward, whatever the board desire is.
Didn't we offer to have everything done so we can go up for bid and there's no measurements at all? We didn't pay for this, did we?
I haven't got a bill for it, but I'm sure we will.
Not, to me, it's not complete.
It's nothing that I would,
It's like
I mean, I could draw that.
I think the drawing you did 6 months ago was better than this. Chief, this is,
It's very similar to what I drew.
yeah. Before we move on, did Commissioner Buckingham ask you about our zoning for down there yet?
No, sir, I haven't got any word back on that. My last understanding is they are moving through that process to make that happen. They have had a first reading with no comments from the public. Yes, that was just because we saw that on their, when it was at the meeting, watching the meeting, that they had a first read. Of course, by the time they get to that read part, there was nobody left in the audience.
We've been through that before though.
Right, it could get to the second reading for a vote and end. But right now, it's made it through the first reading and it's scheduled for the second reading. And once that second reading, they should be able to approve it, I would anticipate, so.
Would it not be better for us to table this until our Wednesday meeting next week to discuss this stuff? Because we have questions about Buckingham and stuff and
Yeah, I agree because I don't want to move forward because we may not even get zoned properly and then this is all moot anyway, so yeah, I just want to table it.
No, we can table it, but we can look at the other stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and because we got a couple other meetings.
Yeah, we're not gonna take a vote on
He
nothing.
can answer that.
Yeah.
Right.
Here.
When I talked to Commissioner Buckingham, I will say that he was a little disappointed in his drawing. I will tell you that. When he received this drawing, he and I had a conversation about the drawing itself, and what our expectation was. Our expectation was a little bit more than this, because what we're looking for is a drawing. that we can
Conceptual
put out
drawing, we can
for a
put out.
RFP.
Yeah.
Something that they can give us measurements and all that, so that a contractor can look at it and go, okay, I know what they're wanting done.
Yeah.
And be able to look at it along with an RFP, be able to look at it and go, okay, here's the changes.
Right.
And the size room, this length of wall, these door, something, and has some dimensions to it.
Yeah.
This
I
doesn't
agree.
have any dimensions that a contractor can look at and we didn't figure even on square
I think
footage.
it'd be an embarrassment in that, personally.
I think Commissioner Buckingham, again, was not happy about what he received, although he sent it to me to make sure that the commission were able to see it.
I mean, that's just something, to me, in my opinion, that's just something that, okay, yeah, that looks good, let's put it permanent.
That was not together. That was the same thing we had
Yeah.
prior.
I think maybe it was just hey, we're working on it, and here's some proof we're working on it, I'm not sure.
Now, I want to move to the marine.
Yeah.
layout.
Okay, so,
Uh,
all right, so, as I said, our last actual, special meeting that, Commissioner Buckingham met, was able to meet with, Russell, can't remember his name, the marine engineer, and kind of laid out what we were kind of looking at. And this is the drawings that he was able to come up with. You can kind of see from it, it shows the reparation lines, repairing rights, reparation lines, as well as 25-foot setback on both of the drawings. I think it incorporates what Commissioner Buckingham was talking about with the more of a trident dock as compared to the other one that would come in from the side instead of from the end. This one, the second one is, and I say the second one, the one that has the side entrance is the one that I think Battalion Chief Taylor was talking about, being able to go in or go in with or go against the current when you're entering and exiting it. Taking in that there may be a wind, but the wind isn't as constant as the current is. The current, the current is going to be either going in or going out. There's some slack, but it's not often. You're going to be working with or against the current. And I think this is where Battalion Chief Taylor kind of looked at it. His preferences were this type of design, whether this is the actual design or not, the type of design to be able to pull in at that with the current or against the current, because that's easier on those our folks that don't drive boats all the time.
It's definitely a better alternative than other ones.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
For
curious.
that, and it's also to open it up to the weight of other boats, where the first one that, it's more open, your boat's more open to the,
Catching it.
and
Well,
also the wind.
yeah, I would be more inclined to move it into the center of between the riparian lines and be able to come on both sides of that dock in the event that you
Well, you
need
can
to.
still come on the side, I mean, that ain't gonna keep you.
No, I meant slips on each side.
I don't know that would we have enough room there?
Yeah, if you see the riparian lines on both sides?
Oh, yeah. But you got a 25-foot setback though, right? Is that what he was pointing out with the yellow lines?
It could be.
Yeah,
But-
25-foot setback
But
line.
the
off
other
of
thing
the
that we talked about
reparation
was
lines.
being able to turn around the gator. And I don't see where we.
Yeah, we have to build that
do
in.
that. Yeah,
That's gonna have to be.
I mean, I like the second one, don't get me wrong.
All right,
I just was thinking we had some slips on each side, but we might not be able to put slips on the other side. But we need,
might not have the width.
yeah. We just need a turnaround area for that gator.
Yeah, and I think part of the different, some of what you also see is that in this one design, you'll also notice that the overall length, and I can't
Grass
really
line.
read that.
It's past the grass.
Right, but it's also 5 slips, where the other one's only 3 slips.
Yeah.
Okay, so in reality, if you wanted to compare apples to apples, it'd be a 3 slip to a 3 slip, which then you could drop off 28, 28, but 38 feet off of the overall length. If,
Mhm.
I'm not saying we do that, I'm just saying compare apples to apples, it'd be three slips, you drop 38 feet over the overall length of this being 300 some odd feet. Because that might end up being an issue with DEPs if we get out further than a lot of the other dots that are out there.
But I'm
You
I'm
can go-
hoping they would be happy that we're past the grass.
Oh, you know, I agree with that. I think that's the reason the marine engineer drew it the way he did, is to get us past the grass. Everything you see starts past the grass. So I think that was his full intent for sure.
Yeah,
I think there could be an area that's made a little bigger to be able to turn the gator around, but at the same time, you're gonna have some kind of storage locker out there for
Yes, sir.
more lines,
Yeah.
buoys,
I like,
vendors, stuff like
Yeah.
that, so.
I like the end there. I remember you said, Rick, when we meeting a couple minutes ago about at the end there, when public come in, it's wider out there, so they can just pull right in out
Yeah,
there,
they
and
pull
make
at
it
the
easier
end.
for them.
Mhm.
And Tommy, you being a captain, you're saying that, and I've talked to a few captains too, I think you're agreeing with the captains I've talked to, they like going with the flow.
Right. We
So-
lean against it.
So I'm reading the same way as Rick and you, is the second one, I think is the ideal way to go. And I would go with that.
Again, I think that's something that needs to be decided by the five of us.
Oh, exactly. I just wanted to have a little discussion
Go
on
ahead
it.
and
Right, this isn't something, when I look at this isn't something that it's got to be moved on right now. I think this is a lot of preparation work for, future. Even after the station is built, this might end up being something that could be a couple of years down the road. If we're looking at, trying to obtain funding, or the sheriff's office assisting with the funding mechanism to
Mhm.
ensure that this is going to happen. Because as it is, we'll operate as we've got. I mean, we're already planning on that. This board will have the opportunity to vote on putting the lift in on the 28th, because we'll open them up, and then on the 28th, we're hoping that y'all are able to make a decision that day. And if y'all make a decision that day, then we're planning on July 1st having a contractor out there installing that lift, and hopefully have the boat moved over there so we can have that rapid response within days of being out there. So I would hope by July 4th, we're up and operating with the boat out behind that station. And I say that, I want that boat back, by Memorial Weekend. So, but if everything works right, and we get it back, I want that boat over there just as soon as we put our personnel down there. I want us to be able to respond to land and water immediately. So as soon as we can get that done. So the 28th, you should be able to vote and put the lift in, and then that's up and operating.
Sounds good.
So even regardless, this is a lot.
Yeah, that's futuristic.
Yeah, this is part of what we're looking to do as far as planning, so that we can get DEP engaged, the permits, all that, get the approvals, so that way we're ready to go. So in the event that the sheriff's office wants to be a part of it, and we say, hey, well, we really need to extend the dock, they can come up with the funding, we've already got the approval to do it. So,
And what's nice is we can still operate when they're building this dock the way the second one is.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works out, and he helps center us up pretty much with our property and all that, because you can kind of tell where our old dock used to be. It's actually in the setback. One of the fingers is actually in the setback, and you'll also see the marine engineer, in order to try to get three, with the going out like the Poseidon's Trident or whatever, we're in the repairing rights again, we're in that setback. So that even gives, to me, I look at it, that even gives us more reason to go with the other, because we're staying within our setbacks. Nobody can say anything about it. We're not asking anybody for anything. Even if we were going to ask the city, well, is it okay if we go ahead and ease into that 25-foot setback? Right now, I really don't like asking the city for a whole lot of anything. It's just something we can do all wrong.
I'm with you.
Agreed.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for the work on that. The direction is, I guess, let's get with Mike about this other drawing, and
He and I'll be working on that, whether we continue to use DAG, or we move on to someone else. It's been, I know he wasn't necessarily happy with this. So he and I actually discussed potentially using someone else. So, but we'll see. We'll see how former Senator Clary responds. And then, just for edification of the board, we have been meeting with different people down at the Bay House to get preparation for a lot of other stuff so that we can go to work on July 1st with our security camera, security station, security people. So we just went down there with them today. He's going to draw some stuff up for us, give us some price quotes. And that way we can get him engaged and be ready to go come July 1st as well, so that he can start doing his install.
And you talking about the whole property being under security too? Just
Yes.
not the buildings, right?
We can, easy,
Me
easy.
personally, I'd like to have the whole property
It,
because it's not a secure property. And
yeah, well, we had told him that even, so what we're initially.
what happens next door? That's there all the time.
Yeah, we're gonna have cameras around the cottage. What we talked to him today about is, when we move in, we gotta have cameras around that cottage. We wanna be able to see our truck that's gonna be sitting there from inside that cottage or anywhere on our phone if we need to. And we also need to be able to see our boat down there at the dock.
Right.
Being that there's gonna be remodeling construction going on, that gives him the opportunity to run all his stuff and get that ready. And then he's gonna have multiple cameras around the current Bay House for us, so we can see down the sides, see the front of the front. We also talked about securing the property. So, and he's gonna give me a proposal on that as well, where we would put up a gate and maybe even multiple gates, so that, because people might see it, and if it's open, just walk right by the station, go out to our dock. So we could put up in between the fences on either side of the Bay House itself, put up a security gate there that we can actually access, and nobody can just walk straight through to go to the dock. And he's talked about quite a bit of that, and as well as he went out by the building, the cottage, putting up some automatic opening gates to keep it kind of secure, but of course our truck, we can go through and that kind of thing. There are 2 parking spots currently outside of that on the street side of the cottage. So if somebody were coming up to see the fire station, they could pull in there and then activate from there to let us know that they're there, and we can engage with them, open the gate and let them through, have a pedestrian gate where they can walk through to get into the rest of the station, or open it up and let them come and park inside. What we have to keep in mind, and I looked at it today when he was mentioning that, is that for us, it's one way in, one way out for our fire trucks. So my concern is that, and we'll have to keep this in mind, is that when that fire truck leaves, once that garage is built, using those terms, the bay, once the garage is built, we're going straight out that side of the property. We can't cross over to go out the other side if that happens to be blocked. So we can't have cars pulling in that and blocking that exit coming out. So we need to do something there that would keep people from kind of pulling up like we would in front of the bay here. It'd be the same thing. So we're going to devise something. We're working with our security guy on that. So anyway, we're doing a lot of that, as well as working with CRC and trying to get our stuff all prepared. So we will be ready to go by July 1st and we'll have a lot of people working down there on July 1st.
Excellent. All right, any other questions? All right, EMS.
Yes, sir. If it's okay, we continue to track this information. However, after we had a discussion, I think a couple of meetings ago, and Commissioner Wilson he's not here, but I'll bring him up anyway. He had asked the question, are we looking to take on 2 major things at one time? And I did tell him we could, for sure, if this board so chose, absolutely. But it is a concern trying to take on 2 major things at one time. The EMS is going to be a project in and of itself to take on. I have no problem doing that, but if it's all right until we're prepared to move on that, if it's all right with this board, I'd like to remove that, because we're not really taking that project on right at this moment. I'd like to continue our efforts on this station, and then at a later date address this. We can get back information, response times and all that. We'll continue to do that. But I don't know that it's something that we're going to be addressing anytime soon. So if it's okay with the board, I'd like to pull that off of our agenda, and then at a later date when we're ready to approach it, we'll bring all that
Look
information
at
on
it in
track.
fall.
Yes,
Is that fair?
yes, sir.
Okay. All right. All right, moving to request for proposals, new business, bank qualified tax exempt.
Yes, sir, I'll turn this over to Ms. Catherine, it's okay, we did go out for an RFP, for this item, and I'll let Ms. Catherine explain what she got, or what we received.
So we sent out an RFP looking for, we need a specific structure as we need to acquire a loan which is backed by ad valorem taxes. And because of that, it's not a traditional commercial loan. It is something that needs to be structured differently. The RFP only reproduced one applied, which is Synovus Bank. I would like to make the recommendation that the board approve that we negotiate with Synovus Bank for what they have proposed, if not better terms, if we could get them. In December, when we were looking to acquire the land through a loan, I had direct contact with Synovus and spoke with them directly. Jim Mitchell and another associate there. They're very knowledgeable on this special structure that we need. They're currently, I believe it's currently building Florosa. They have financed Florosa Fire Station, which is being done now. So they do know what we need. They can make it happen without us having to do anything special. Our current bank, Trustmark, declined to bid on this because they said that we would have to create a special entity to handle liability that the bank was concerned with. And that's not something that we feel as a district with our relationship with them that we've had. We've had a structured loan with Trustmark before. We don't feel that we need to get into that situation. Synovus has local branch here that can service us. The terms in which they are presenting is a term loan, 10-year term loan, not to exceed 1.5 million. This board has already made the decision not to exceed 1.25. A 10-year term loan at a fixed interest rate of 2.4%. It would be, hopefully the loan could close. I'm sure we can close this loan by the time we need to begin drawing in construction, which would, be July or so forth. But they've even said maybe even by May 15th or May 14th that's in here. We will have to work, however, with our bond attorney and the bank jointly to get everything closed properly because of the structure. You'll see there is a 90-day written notice to prepay this, so there's no prepayment penalty. So if we do have extra funds, we can pay it down anytime, with proper notice. The bank fees that they're quoting at this time, not to exceed $8,500. That's the bank counsel fees. There will be additional closing costs with any loan. And the structure would be at closing to draw the full amount that we're going to take. So if we draw 1.25 million, we draw it at closing. We use it. We begin our first payment on October 1st. They have this structured monthly payment. I might want to structure it a little differently, quarterly. The payments that are proposed with the interest rate are in line with what we've already looked at and can accept within our budget for not only the upcoming year, but future years as well. So I would like to ask for the recommendation to approve the RFP presented by Synovus Bank to allow us to negotiate with them to see if we can get any better, or to, if not, to accept what they have presented.
I'll make the motion. Synovus Bank's RFP.
I'll second.
Got a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? Take a vote, all in favor? Move forward, Kathy. Good job.
Thank you.
It sounds like they really want to work with us, so
Yes.
I like that.
I think we need to look at transferring our money from Trustmark to Baby Snows. If they don't want to help us with our loan, maybe we should move our money elsewhere.
Maybe something we might need to explore.
Well, there is, but at the same time, you're dealing with a bank they have a history of dealing with government on long-term loan, or loans like this. Enough of us have, and I know that. But I wouldn't do away with the relationship we have with Trustmark because they
Oh,
didn't
no.
want to write this.
Whatever the best interest, wherever we get the best
Yeah.
rate, I would
Yeah.
take a look at it though.
Always look at it, always explore options, I guess. All right, moving on to new business, again with resolution 21-06 mid-year amendment to 2021 adopted budget.
Yes, sir, we had hoped to have that. We don't, but we will have it at the next meeting so that we can make our mid-year budget adjustments, and we'll have a resolution for the board to approve at our next meeting.
Okay. All right, so our next meeting scheduled, we have a special meeting scheduled for April 21st, 2021 at 9 a.m. here at the station, and then our regular scheduled meeting, May 11th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. So is anything else coming from the board this time? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.